Peace had settled over the village, a calm that had not been felt in years. People no longer lived in fear of lies and deception, for they had seen what truth could do. Tenny, once cast aside, now held a place of honor among them. Her ability to hear hidden truths had become a guiding light, helping villagers resolve conflicts and live with honesty. Those who once doubted her now came seeking her wisdom, trusting her to reveal what was hidden beneath empty words. Days passed with harmony, but the nights carried a different story. Strange whispers floated through the air, voices that had no source. The jungle, once a place of quiet mystery, now held a growing unease. Some claimed to have seen figures moving between the trees, shadows that did not belong. Others swore they had heard a voice they had hoped never to hear again. At first, the villagers ignored the signs, brushing them off as tricks of the wind or restless imaginations. But as the unease grew, so did their fear. One evening, a farmer returned from his fields, his face pale with terror. He spoke of something lurking at the forest's edge, watching with glowing eyes. Another swore they heard laughter, faint but familiar. The village elders dismissed the rumors, unwilling to believe that the past could return. But Tenny knew better. She had spent too long hearing the truths people refused to speak, and in the silence of the night, she felt it too. Something was coming, something that had never truly left. At first, the strange events were small enough to dismiss. A sudden gust of wind knocking over a basket, a shadow flickering in the corner of an eye, a whisper that could be mistaken for the rustling leaves. The villagers told themselves it was nothing, just the mind playing tricks. But as the nights stretched on, the disturbances became impossible to ignore. The shadows no longer stayed at the edge of sight. They moved with purpose, creeping along the walls of homes, slithering between trees, stretching unnaturally under the pale moonlight. Those who saw them swore they had a shape, something human but twisted, like a figure that did not quite belong to this world. At first, people avoided speaking about it, fearing they might bring misfortune upon themselves. But the more they ignored it, the more it seemed to grow. Then came the voices, soft at first, no louder than a breath, a whisper in the night, a quiet murmur carried by the wind. But soon, the words became clear, and they all belonged to the same person. Nura. She called to them from the darkness, her voice shifting between sorrowful pleas and chilling laughter. Some heard her whisper their names just outside their windows. Others claimed she stood at the forest's edge, her eyes glowing like embers, her figure flickering like a flame, before disappearing into the shadows. The ones who had once pitied her, who had believed she had run away forever, now whispered of something far worse. Had she really been lost to the jungle, or had she returned with something unnatural clinging to her soul? Fear seeped into the village like poison. No one walked alone after dusk. The streets, once filled with the chatter of families and children playing, grew silent before the sun had fully set. Doors were bolted shut, candles burned through the night, flickering in every home as if to ward off the unseen force that lurked outside. But nothing could stop what happened next. The first sign was the crops. Once lush and green, they began to wither overnight. The leaves curled in on themselves, their edges dry and blackened. Fruits that had been ripe just days before rotted on the vines, their skins splitting open, oozing a foul-smelling liquid. No matter how much the farmers watered the fields, the plants refused to thrive. Then, the wells darkened. The clear water turned murky, thick like oil, and carried a strange metallic scent. No matter how many buckets were drawn, the filth remained, untouched by the sun's warmth. Animals that once roamed freely refused to go near the wells or the fields. Dogs growled at empty spaces. The chickens no longer laid eggs. Even the birds that filled the morning air with their songs had vanished, leaving only silence in their wake. The villagers gathered in fear, whispering to one another, desperate for an explanation. Some believed it was a punishment, an unbroken curse that had never truly left. Others spoke of spirits, of something unnatural lurking in the jungle, waiting for the right moment to strike. But no one could deny the truth. This was no ordinary misfortune. Something had returned, and it was watching. Among the growing panic, Tenny remained quiet, but her heart was heavy with unease. She could feel it, like a shadow pressing against her chest. The past was not buried, the curse had never truly ended, and whatever had been awakened in the darkness, it was only getting stronger. The night was heavy with silence, a stillness that felt unnatural. Even the wind refused to stir, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Tenny lay in her small hut, exhausted but restless. Sleep had not come easily in recent days. The strange happenings in the village, the whispers of Nura's voice, the dying crops, none of it made sense. Deep down, she knew this was no ordinary misfortune. Something had returned. When sleep finally claimed her, it pulled her into a world that felt both familiar and foreign. She found herself standing before the forbidden lake, but it was not as she remembered. The once shimmering blue water now pulsed with an eerie red glow, like liquid fire moving beneath the surface. The trees that surrounded it twisted unnaturally, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air was thick with a scent she could not place, something metallic and bitter. Then came the voice. It did not echo from the trees or rise from the water. It whispered from everywhere and nowhere all at once, a voice both familiar and unrecognizable, soft but filled with something dark, something angry. You took my truth, now I will take yours. The words crawled through her mind, cold as ice yet burning like fire. The moment she heard them, her chest tightened with fear. She wanted to run, but her feet would not move. The lake seemed to pulse, as if alive, as if waiting. Then, without warning, the water rippled. A shadow rose from its depths, a figure barely visible against the glowing red. It stood at the center of the lake, watching her, its face hidden in darkness. But she knew, even without seeing, she knew who it was. Nura, Tenny gasped, her breath stolen by fear. The shadow stepped closer, but before it could reach her, the dream shattered. She jolted awake, her body drenched in sweat, her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. The room around her was still, but the weight of the dream pressed against her chest. It had felt too real, more than just a vision. It was a warning. She sat up, her mind racing. The curse had not ended. It had only changed. Whatever had happened to Nura had not erased her. It had twisted her into something else, something dangerous. And now she wanted revenge. Tenny swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe. She could still hear the voice from her dream, lingering like a ghost in the corners of her mind. You took my truth, now I will take yours. The meaning was clear. The curse had shifted, and now it was coming for her. The night was restless, the air thick with tension, as if the storm itself carried a warning. Rain poured down in relentless sheets, drenching the earth and turning the village paths into rivers of mud. Thunder rumbled overhead, deep and menacing, shaking the ground beneath the villagers' feet. People stayed inside their homes, locking their doors and whispering prayers, their unease growing with every strike of lightning. But then, through the storm, a figure appeared at the village gates. It moved slowly, its steps deliberate, unaffected by the howling wind or the relentless downpour. Cloaked in black, the figure's face remained hidden beneath a heavy hood, the fabric clinging to a body that seemed too thin, too fragile. The air around it felt wrong, carrying an unnatural chill that cut through the warm rain. The torches near the entrance flickered violently, their flames trembling as if in fear. The village guard, a young man named Kofi, gripped his spear tightly, stepping forward despite the dread curling in his stomach. His voice wavered as he spoke. "Who goes there?" The figure did not answer immediately. Instead, it raised its head just enough for the torchlight to reveal what lay beneath the hood. The moment Kofi saw the face, his breath caught in his throat. Nura. But this was not the Nura he remembered. Her skin, once golden and smooth, was now dull and sickly pale, stretched tightly over her bones. Dark veins ran along her neck, pulsing faintly beneath the surface. Her lips were cracked, yet curved in a haunting smile, and her eyes, those were the worst. No longer the deep brown they had once been, they now glowed with an eerie light, shifting like burning embers, as if something inside her was alive and watching. Gasps spread through the growing crowd of villagers, disbelief and horror painted on their faces. Some clutched their children, pulling them back, while others whispered frantically to one another. They had all believed Nura to be gone forever, lost to the spirits of the jungle. But here she was, standing at their gates, looking like she had crawled back from the dead. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating her in a ghostly glow. She took a step forward, and the villagers instinctively stepped back. The air crackled around her, charged with something unseen but deeply felt, a force, a presence, something that did not belong to this world. "I have seen the other side of the lake," Nura's voice carried through the rain, low and calm, but with a sharp edge that sent chills down the villagers' spine. "And I have returned." A hush fell over the crowd. The only sound remaining was the steady drumming of the rain. Then another figure pushed through the crowd. Tenny. Her breath came in short, uneven bursts, her mind racing to understand what she was seeing. She had known something was coming. The dreams, the dying crops, the whispers in the jungle. It had all been leading to this. "Nura." Tenny's voice was barely above a whisper, but in the heavy silence, it rang clear. Nura turned her gaze toward her, a slow, deliberate movement, her glowing eyes locking onto her sister's, and then she smiled. It was not a smile of joy or warmth, but one of knowing, of amusement, of something dark and unspoken. "You look surprised," Nura said softly. "Did you really think you had won?" Tenny clenched her fists, swallowing back the dread rising in her throat. "What happened to you?" Nura tilted her head, as if considering the question, before taking another step forward. "I have seen what lies beyond the lake. I have walked in the places no human should ever go, and I have returned, not for forgiveness, but for revenge." A sudden gust of wind tore through the village, snuffing out the torches in an instant. Darkness swallowed everything. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, and a few villagers screamed. Panic set in as people scrambled to relight the flames. But when the torches flickered back to life, Nura was gone. Only the storm remained, raging on, as if the heavens themselves knew that something far worse had just begun. The village, once steady and peaceful, now felt like a place of uncertainty and fear. Whispers spread like wildfire, doubts creeping into the minds of the people who once stood by Tenny. It started subtly at first, small moments, strange occurrences that made the villagers question what was real. A mother swore she saw her child enter their home, only to find him still outside moments later. A farmer claimed he had locked his gate, yet the animals were found wandering free in the morning. The villagers dismissed these as forgetfulness, tricks of the mind. But then the voices began. In the dead of night, people heard Nura's whispers carried by the wind, gentle yet insistent. "Tenny is not who she says she is. She stole my truth. Now she steals yours. Do you truly remember what happened, or only what she told you?" The whispers seeped into their dreams, wrapping around their thoughts like vines, planting seeds of doubt that took root deep in their mind. At first, they resisted. They reminded themselves of Tenny's kindness, of how she had saved them from deception before. But as the days passed, the whispers grew louder, and then Nura herself began to speak. She appeared at the marketplace, standing tall despite her frail frame, her glowing eyes scanning the gathered crowd. Her voice was calm, smooth, carrying a weight that made people listen. "I was lost," she said, "because of my sister." The words hung in the air, thick with something unseen, something that made even those certain of Tenny hesitate. "She tricked you all once, didn't she?" Nura continued, her voice wrapping around them like a snake. "She let me disappear, let you believe I was gone, and now I return, and she tells you I am the danger." Her lips curved into a knowing smile. "Ask yourselves, who has truly been in control all this time?" The villagers exchanged uncertain glances. They knew Tenny had never lied to them, but something about Nura's words made their memories feel unclear. Had they really seen what they thought they had? Or had they simply believed what Tenny wanted them to? Tenny stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "Nura, you are twisting the truth." Nura turned her glowing gaze toward her sister and shook her head slowly. "Am I? Or am I simply revealing the truth you tried to hide?" And then it began, the battle of words and shadow. With every truth Tenny spoke, Nura countered it with a carefully crafted lie, each one woven so seamlessly into reality that the villagers found themselves caught in a web of uncertainty. Tenny reminded them of what had happened, of how Nura had betrayed her, how she had gained accursed power from the lake. But Nura tilted her head, her glowing eyes filled with something almost playful, and asked, "Did you see it with your own eyes? Or did you only hear the story from her lips?" The crowd murmured, the doubt thickening. Nura stepped closer, lowering her voice to a whisper that made people lean in to listen. "You trust her, yet she hides her face from you. Why? If she has nothing to fear, why does she hide?" Tenny felt the weight of their stares pressing down on her. She had worn the hood for so long to protect them from the sight of her missing reflection, to shield them from the strange power she carried. But now it was working against her. "I do not hide because of guilt," Tenny said firmly. "I hide because of the curse your lies placed upon me." Nura laughed softly, shaking her head. "A curse? Or a consequence of your own actions?" And just like that, the villagers found themselves trapped between two realities. One where Tenny was their savior, and another where she was the deceiver. Confusion spread like wildfire. Neighbors whispered, families argued, friendships strained under the weight of doubt. Some still clung to their trust in Tenny, but others, those who had always feared the unknown, began to turn away. Nura's power grew stronger with each passing day, her words shaping the very fabric of their memories. Truth became fragile, bending and shifting beneath the weight of her voice. Tenny watched as the village she had worked so hard to protect slowly unraveled, swallowed by shadows and deception. She knew she had to act fast, before there was nothing left to save. The tension in the village thickened like a dark storm cloud. Fear and doubt spread as Nura's voice slithered into the minds of the people, making them question their own memories. Tenny knew she had to act fast, but she didn't yet understand how to break the spell Nura had cast over everyone. The power Nura wielded was unlike anything she had ever encountered. She needed guidance, and there was only one person who could give it, Mama Eboli. Deep in the forest, far from the village's restless whispers, the old woman sat by the fire, waiting. It was as if she already knew Tenny would come. Without a word, she gestured for Tenny to sit, her wrinkled face calm but serious. "You have seen what she can do," Mama Eboli murmured, stirring the embers with a stick. "Her words are not just words anymore. They shape reality." Tenny clenched her fists. "She is turning the village against me. They don't know what's real anymore." Mama Eboli nodded, "Because Nura's power does not come from the same curse that took your reflection. She carries the second curse, the one the lake has kept hidden for centuries." A chill ran down Tenny's spine. "Second curse," the old woman sighed, her eyes reflecting the flickering firelight. "The lake does not just take, it also gives. When it stole your reflection, it gave you the power to hear the truth. But the lake holds another secret, one far more dangerous. If a cursed soul returns and drinks again, the lake offers them a different gift, one that allows them to reshape reality itself." Tenny's breath caught in her throat. "You mean Nura can change the truth?" Mama Eboli's gaze darkened. "Not yet. Right now, she only bends it, twists it in ways that confuse the mind. But if she fully masters this power, she will no longer need to lie. She will make her lies real. The past, the present, everything could change with just her words." Tenny's heart pounded. She had already seen how easily Nura's whispers had unsettled the village. If she became strong enough to rewrite reality, then nothing would be safe. "There has to be a way to stop her," Tenny insisted. Mama Eboli studied her for a long moment before speaking. "The only way to break a curse is to return to where it began. You must go back to the lake." Tenny shuddered at the thought. The last time she had been there, her world had changed forever. The shimmering blue water had turned black around her, stealing her reflection and marking her with its strange power. But now, she had no choice. If she didn't face the lake again, Nura would destroy everything. "The lake took something from you," Mama Eboli continued, "and it gave something in return, but it never finished what it started. That is why your story and Nura's are still tangled together. To end this, you must face what you once lost." Tenny felt the weight of those words settle in her chest. She had spent so long accepting her curse, living with the loss of her reflection. But had she ever truly faced it? Had she ever dared to ask the lake why it had chosen her? Taking a deep breath, she met Mama Ebele's steady gaze. "I'll go." The old woman gave a slow nod. "Be careful, child. The lake does not forget, and it does not forgive." Tenny rose, determination burning in her heart. The battle with Nura was no longer just about the village. It was about the power of truth itself. She had to return to the place where it all began, to the heart of the jungle, where the forbidden lake waited, because only there would she find the answer she needed, the one that could stop Nura before it was too late. Darkness stretched over the jungle as Tenny and a small group of loyal villagers moved cautiously through the thick undergrowth. The journey back to the forbidden lake was not just a path through the forest, it was a journey into the past, one filled with shadows of old memories and silent fears that had never truly left her heart. Every tree seemed to whisper secret, and every gust of wind carried an unseen presence. The villagers with her were afraid, but trusted Tenny to lead them. They had seen Nura's deception with their own eyes, had felt the confusion she had spread like poison through their village. They knew that stopping her was the only way to restore balance. Yet, as they walked deeper into the jungle, a heavy silence settled over them, as if the forest itself was watching. Each step felt familiar, yet foreign. The last time Tenny had walked this path, she had been tricked, betrayed, and cursed. Now, she returned with purpose, but the weight of what lay ahead pressed on her shoulders. As they crossed an old fallen tree, she caught sight of something glistening in the moonlight, a piece of the anklet she had lost the night Nura pushed her into the lake. The sight of it sent a shiver through her body, stirring the pain of that moment, the shock, the loneliness, the terror of looking into the water and seeing nothing. She bent down to pick it up, her fingers trembling. Holding it in her hand, she realized how much had changed since that fateful night. She was no longer the girl who had been tricked into believing in false promises. She was stronger, wiser, and now she carried a truth that even the lake itself could not take from her. As they moved further in, the jungle grew darker, as if the trees themselves wished to turn them away. Strange sounds echoed around them, rustling leaves with no wind, whispers with no mouths to speak them. One of the villagers gasped, pointing towards the trees. Shapes flickered in the darkness, neither fully there nor completely gone. Shadows of the past. Tenny clenched her fists. She understood now. The lake did not just curse. It trapped memories, pain and fear, turning them into echoes that haunted those who dared return. She saw glimpses of her younger self, running barefoot through the village, laughing with her mother before she was taken from her. She saw Nura watching from a distance, jealousy already growing in her heart even when they were children. The truth of the past was here, hidden within the jungle's depths. The villagers murmured among themselves, afraid. Some wanted to turn back, but Tenny pressed on. "The past cannot hurt us unless we let it," she said firmly, her voice steady. "We must move forward." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the clearing where the forbidden lake lay. The water, once a deep, shimmering blue, now glowed eerily under the night sky. A strange mist curled above its surface, shifting and twisting as if alive. The sight sent a chill through Tenny's bones. This was no ordinary lake. It had never been. She took a deep breath, stepping forward. The truth awaited her, but so did something else. The price she would have to pay to finally end this curse. A heavy mist hung over the forbidden lake, curling around the trees like ghostly fingers. The air was thick, charged with an energy that made the villagers uneasy. Tenny stepped forward, her heartbeat steady but her mind racing. She had come too far to turn back now. At the edge of the lake, a shadowy figure stood waiting. Nura, but she was no longer the sister Tenny once knew. Her presence was different, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Power radiated from her, dark and consuming. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it, only triumph, as if she had already won. "I knew you would come," Nura's voice echoed, smooth yet laced with something sinister. "You always do." She gestured toward the water, where the lake shimmered, no longer blue but a deep, unnatural red. The surface pulsed as if it were alive, reflecting nothing back. just like it had done to Tenny long ago. Tenny stood firm, refusing to let fear take hold. You've twisted the truth, Nura. You've made people believe lies, but it won't last. Nura let out a small laugh. Hasn't it already? They believed me once. They doubted you before, and they will again. She took a step closer, lowering her voice. But I'll give you a way out, a chance to be free. She raised her hand and the lake responded, rippling unnaturally. Drink again, she said. Erase it all. Your pain, your past, everything. Let the water take it away. No more burden of truth. No more suffering. The words were tempting, almost hypnotic. The weight of everything Tenny had endured pressed against her. Years of hardship, betrayal, and the loneliness that came with knowing the truth in a world filled with lies. But she saw through it. She knew what Nura was doing. If I drink, Tenny said slowly, I lose myself. But if I refuse, you destroy the village with your lies. Nura smirked. Exactly. So choose. A heavy silence settled between them. The lake pulsed, waiting. The villagers stood behind Tenny, terrified yet trusting her to make the right decision. Tenny clenched her fists. This wasn't just about her anymore. It never had been. She had to end this once and for all. The tension between Tenny and Nura hung in the air, thick like the mist around the forbidden lake. Nura stood there, her eyes burning with dark power, waiting for Tenny to make a choice. The temptation to drink from the lake was there, a chance to forget everything, the pain, the betrayals, the curse. But deep inside, Tenny knew this wasn't the answer. The water, no matter how powerful, would only keep her trapped in a cycle of lies. As Nura's smirk grew wider, her fingers still hovering over the shimmering red surface, Tenny felt a surge of clarity. There was one thing that Nura had tried to bury, one thing she had hidden deep within herself, her true name, the name she once wore with innocence before jealousy and darkness took over. Tenny stood tall, facing her sister, the weight of everything she had endured pressing against her chest. The villagers behind her waited in silence, holding their breath. In that moment, Tenny made a decision that would break everything wide open. With a calm, steady voice, Tenny spoke the name, Nura. The word echoed across the lake, cutting through the heavy silence like a blade. The name wasn't just a sound, it was a key, unlocking something hidden deep within Nura. The air shifted, the lake rippled, and for a brief moment, the red water seemed to flicker, like it was fighting to hold on to its dark power. Nura froze, her eyes widening as if the name had physically struck her. Her stance faltered, and for the first time, the confidence in her gaze flickered. You don't get to take that from me, Nura hissed, but her voice wavered, a crack showing in the otherwise solid facade she had built. Teeny's heart pounded, but she didn't back down. She knew she had found the crack in the curse. You're not this thing you've become. You were once full of light, Nura. You used to be the one who smiled, the one who loved. With every word, the shadows around Nura seemed to shrink. The power of the lake, which had been feeding off the lies and hatred, began to weaken. Tenny could feel it, like the air growing lighter. The curse wasn't just about the reflection, it was about the truth being buried under layers of darkness. By speaking Nura's true name, Tenny had exposed that darkness, revealing the truth behind it all. The ground beneath them trembled, and for a moment, it seemed as though the lake itself was fighting to hold on to its power. But Tenny's voice didn't falter. She kept speaking, calling her sister by the name that had once meant love and trust, not jealousy and betrayal. Nura, the curse can only live if you keep hiding from who you truly are. Nura's face twisted in pain, the dark power around her flickering like a candle in the wind. For the first time, she looked vulnerable. The spell was breaking, the false power she had gained from the lake, now crumbling in the light of the truth. Tenny knew that the fight wasn't just over Nura's deception. It was about breaking free from the cycle of lies that had haunted both of them. As Nura's dark form began to shift and lose its power, Tenny took a step forward. She wasn't just saving herself, she was saving Nura too. As the last echoes of the curse faded, the lake began to settle. The red glow that had consumed its waters vanished, and the once menacing surface now shimmered in its natural blue. The oppressive energy that had hung in the air for so long lifted, leaving behind only a sense of peace. Nura, her body trembling, dropped to her knees. The weight of the darkness that had controlled her for so long seemed to dissipate, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she was free. Tears welled up in Nura's eyes as she looked at the wreckage she had caused. The weight of her action, the betrayal she had inflicted on her own sister and the village, flooded her heart. She had been so consumed by jealousy, by the twisted allure of the power from the lake, that she had forgotten who she truly was. Her past mistakes echoed in the stillness around her, and for a long time she couldn't speak. The realization of the pain she had caused was almost too much to bear. Tenny, though still without a reflection, stood tall. Her appearance might have been altered, her face unseen to the world, but her spirit was stronger than ever. She didn't need a mirror to know who she was or what she had accomplished. The curse was broken, and she had faced her fears, her sister's betrayal, and the dark forces that had threatened to tear everything apart. She was whole, not because of her reflection, but because of the truth she held inside. As Tenny turned to leave the lake, a gentle breeze swept through the air, as if the world itself was acknowledging her victory. The village once again would know peace. The whispers of fear that had once haunted the people would now be replaced with the understanding of what truly matters. Tenny had shown them that truth isn't about what can be seen, but about believing in what is right and standing firm in the face of darkness. The villagers, who had once doubted her, now understood. They had witnessed the power of truth and the strength it takes to stand up for it. They had seen that even in the absence of something as simple as a reflection, a person can still be whole, still be powerful. And they would remember this lesson forever, for in the end, it was not the mirror that defined Tenny, but her heart and the truth she carried with her. A new beginning had started, one built on honesty, courage, and the strength to move forward no matter what.